These two videos from the Aging Gracefully seminar involve Florida law and services provided in Broward County. Although many states have laws that are similar, there are many states that have Lady Bird deed statutes. But you need to consult with your local attorney before acting on any of these. Marty Kiar, Broward County Property Appraiser, was a presenter at our April 2024 Sunrise, Florida Rotary Aging Gracefully seminar. He explains his Owner Alert program, a free service that helps you protect your property from scams or fraud by notifying you when there is a recorded deed change affecting the ownership of your property. The next speaker we have is Marty.
All right.
He's going to come and talk about
well, thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to come and say a few words. I promise I won't talk for too long. I've also had 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke, so I'm a little wired. But I'm just very, very thrilled to be here. And before I just quickly talk about title fraud and how you can really protect yourself, I wanted to thank you. You know, you all have given me the great privilege to serve in a lot of capacities. I got to serve in the Florida House of Representatives, I got to serve in the County Commission, I got to be the Mayor of Broward County, and now I get to be our Property Appraiser. And I can tell you, of all the jobs I've ever had, this one I love the most by far, because you get to interact with everybody in the county, and the nature of the job lets you help people, so thank you so very much. And what Bruce asked me to come talk about today, just quickly, was title fraud and how you can protect yourself. Unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. And what they do is they walk into the recording divisions of every county in the state of Florida every single day, and they file fake deeds on people's properties, and they take those deeds and they extort people for money, and they mortgage, rent, or sell the properties. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording division for every county has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we want us to do is give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So a couple years ago, we came up with a great program called Owner Alert. It's really a notification program to let you know if a document changing title has been filed changing on your property. And you can sign up in a few ways. You can actually go to Awesome Susan over there, who is fantastic. She's a member of our mobile exemption education that gets out to the public. Or you can go online. And if you go online, you just go to bccounty.net, you type in your name, you put in your parcel ID number, and you put in your email address. And if we have your email address on file, you're automatically verified. If not, you have to upload your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If you don't have that, you have to upload a utility bill or something proving ownership. And then if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership, you're notified by email, text message. You can get a hard copy in the mail, so you can make sure somebody can't steal your property, cloud your title, and do something really bad that can actually hurt you a whole lot. And a few years ago, when we came up with this program, I started getting phone calls from residents. And they would say, Marty, I got an email from your office that title was changed on my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more, and I realized how big of a deal it was. So I came up with a little bit of a different idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement and put the people in jail who were doing this. And so I called the Department of Revenue. And I go, Department of Revenue, you oversee all the property appraisers for the state of Florida. I want to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put these people in jail. Can I do it? And I gave them a lot of heartburn. And they go, you know, Marty, you're a property appraiser. You determine the value of property and you give exemptions. You're not law enforcement. But we know this is a big deal for South Florida, and so we're going to make you the guinea pig for the rest of the state. We'll approve your program. So I called it our Crimes Against Property team. I then went to the County Commission, which funds my budget. And I go, County Commission, I have a new program called our Crimes Against Property team. Would you fund it? And all 9 county commissioners said, absolutely. I then went to the Sheriff of Broward County, my friend Gregory Tony. And I go, Greg, listen, I have this new program in my office, our Crimes Against Property team, but I have a problem. I'm not law enforcement. I can't arrest people, issue warrants, probable cause affidavits. I need to be able to work with you to be able to do this. Would you work with me? And Sheriff Tony said, absolutely, Marty. And we entered into an agreement to work together. And he actually assigned 2 sheriff's detectives to work in our office to work for us who can actually do the job of law enforcement. I then went to see my other friend, the state attorney, Harold Pryor. And I go, Harold, the sheriff and I, we're working together. We're going to build these criminal cases. And if we bring you cases you think are prosecutorial, would you prosecute the people that are doing this? And he said, absolutely, Marty. And he assigned an assistant state attorney to work with our office to prosecute the people that are doing this. And over the past 1.5 to 2 years now since we've been in effect, our Crimes Against Property team has had about 50 arrests. We've had a number of convictions. We've been able to stop the fraudulent sale of millions of dollars worth of property. And we've been able to work with the court system to get property back to people in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. And just to give you a quick idea of how bad some of the people are that do this and why I like to talk about it everywhere, but people really need to protect themselves, let me just give you 3 fast examples that just show how smart the people are that do this. The first one I'd like to talk about involved 2 wives. It was a married couple. One of the wives worked for one of our hospital districts. The other wife worked in the real estate industry. The wife that worked in the hospital district would find out what people would pass on. She would then take their confidential information, including their social security numbers and other identifying information, and give it to her wife in the real estate industry, who would find out they had property in Broward County and heirs here. If they had property and no heirs, they'd file fake deeds on the properties, they'd sell the properties on Zillow, mortgage the properties, rent the properties. They profited in the amount of millions of dollars. They sold about 80 properties that we found, but something I'm very happy about, even though they were a married couple, they were found guilty and they're spending their time in different prisons, which is a great thing. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're friends. Another example happened from a person who wasn't from Broward County. But unfortunately, what I found is most of the people that are preyed upon by these criminals are seniors. They're people with disabilities. They're low-income people. They're people that don't speak English. These are very smart people that prey on our most vulnerable citizens. And there was a man not from Broward, he was from Miami-Dade. And he somehow found out there was this senior. And that this senior lived in Southwest Ranches. And this senior was bedridden. He also found that this senior had a 5-acre parcel free and clear. So what he did was very smart. He filed a fake corporation with Tallahassee. He made the officer and director of the corporation the sick man. He then filed a fake deed saying the corporation owned the property. He then made a fake ID saying he was that man. He actually then walked into a small business right here in the city of Sunrise and said, you know what, I've fallen in some hard times, made some bad financial decisions, but I have this one thing, a 5-acre parcel in Southwest Ranches free and clear. Can I please have a $500,000 mortgage? And they said, sure, we'll give it to you. And this is where they really should have realized something fishy was going on. The closing on a 5-acre parcel in Southwest Ranches for $500,000 took place at a Burger King in Hialeah. So they go to the Burger King in Hialeah, and you got the bad guy trying to get the money, you got the mortgage company right here about to get a lot of money, and you had the smartest person in the notary. And the notary said, this is very fishy, and she asked for the guy's thumbprint, which he gave. She then gave it to our office. We contacted the Tonawanda Police Department and also the U.S. Secret Service because they handle a lot of the identity theft cases in America. Fortunately, the man was arrested. Unfortunately, was given the full $500,000 mortgage. He spent about $80,000. We recovered the rest. The last one I wanted to talk about is one of our biggest arrests, and we have a number of them. But what you'll notice is every one's a little bit different because the people that do this are very, very smart. And this one, we've arrested so far about 7 people, and more will be arrested. And I haven't been able to prove this, but I was told that all of them met each other in jail and they came up with this scheme in jail. And here's what they did. You had the ringleaders, and the ringleaders would do what's filed, they would file what's called quiet title actions in circuit court, basically lawsuits in circuit court, saying this senior, this bank, or this person no longer wants the property. And the return of service for the answer would go to the guy's buddy who was in a mobile home in Hillsborough County, and he would say, oh yeah, I represent that senior, I represent that bank or that person, yeah, they don't want the property anymore, put in this guy's name or his company's name. They stole about 17 properties that we found so far. We tend to find more all the time, but I learned a couple things from that case. The first thing that we all know is the property owner is a victim. I also learned the community can be a victim too, because in one of the houses that they stole, which was in Fort Lauderdale, they actually moved a whole bunch of their friends into that property. And one night, about 3 in the morning, one of the friends walked out of the home. He went to a neighbor's home. He tried every single door until he found them. They forgot to lock the night before, and he went inside. And then he walked into the bedroom with the husband and the wife about 3 in the morning. Fortunately, the wife woke up, started screaming, there's somebody in the house. He started running outside and was also chased out by their very big dog. He was then arrested, given an ankle monitor, and went right back to the stolen home. And then I learned a third thing. I learned not only is the homeowner a victim, not only can the community be a victim, but sometimes there are innocent people that are actually in these homes that can be victims as well. Because when you live in a stolen home, if you're squatting in that home, you are in a very dangerous situation. Usually there's no electricity, no running water, no power. And when we removed the people from the home, there was even a 3 or 4-year-old child that was with them who was obviously innocent. I wanted to bring these few stories up because I hope everybody here signs up for our Owner Alert program. It's there to protect your most important asset, your home. It's free to the public. Almost half of our homesteaded properties in Broward County have signed up. We've had 251,000 people sign up, but I want everybody to sign up because it's there to protect something that's very important to you. And also I want to scream about this stuff from the rooftops because I want everybody out there to know that if they want to do this in Broward County, they're not welcome here and we're going to put them in jail for a long time. With that said, like I said, I've had 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke. I'm very excited. I can go on and on forever, but does anybody have any questions? Yes, you have to be very careful, Sydney. So Sydney said, and I'm sure you all get this, I get it from my house too. People are constantly calling and texting me, do you want to sell? And they'll come up with these other schemes. Be very weary of everything because I'll tell you what I learned. I took a class with the FBI called the FBI Citizens Academy. And I thought I was kind of being kind of cool, and I said to the FBI, the agent in charge, I go, you know what? South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. And he goes, no, Marty, South Florida is the fraud capital of the world. And when you think about that, it's true. A lot of these people that are calling you, they're doing it because they want to fraud you out of your money. They want you to do something and make you feel secure, but at the end of the day, it's probably not going to work out. And the thing when it comes to your property values in Broward County have skyrocketed. Everybody here knows their home here in Sunrise Lakes is worth a lot more today than it was last year, the year before that, and the year before that. And if you put it on the market, you're going to get a lot of money for it. So all of those calls and emails and text messages you're getting from people who want to buy it, they want to, if it's legit, they're trying to buy it at a very discounted amount. And if it's not legitimate, they're trying to do something where they're trying to fraud you out of it. So I would just keep ignoring them. Don't answer it. Just say thank you so much and just hang up. With that, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it, Sydney. So Anitra had a fantastic question, and it's very, very important. Because here's the thing. She basically said, how quickly do you get notified when somebody files a title change in your property? It's very important that it's quick, because here's what occurs. The first fraudulent act is somebody filing the fake deed, but then they got to take it and they got to do something with it. They got to take out a mortgage, they got to sell the property. It could take some time. So if you're notified very quickly, you can stop the fraud before it occurs. You can work with our office to quickly fix it. We can also have our crimes against property team go and arrest the people. And so what will occur is when somebody files a fake deed, it then gets to our office that day. And as soon as we get it, that day or the next day, you'll get a text message, email, and also if you sign up for a hard copy in the mail, that can take a little bit longer based on the post office, but the next day you would get basically the email and the phone number. And the one thing that we don't do is do it more than once, but that's a great idea, and I think I'm going to change that. Maybe send it a few times. That's why, honestly, I love speaking with the public, because the best ideas come from everybody else. I really didn't think about that. As you know, the senior exemption is very, very important. It can save seniors a significant amount of money in their property taxes. And it used to be that you had to reapply every single year. Now, is it Marisol?
Yeah.
Marisol is wonderful. She's an incredibly honest person. She let us know that her son moved in and his household income, so for 1 year she couldn't get it, but now she's going to get it again. But here's what's great. A couple years ago, the legislature, in a very bipartisan way, all Democrats and all Republicans voted for it, actually now made it to where it automatically renews. So the only time you actually have to send that back to us is when your income gets too high. If not, you'll constantly get the senior exemption. And one quick story about that as well that I think you might appreciate. Before I was property appraiser, my dear friend Lori Parrish was property appraiser. You all remember her? Yeah. Lori's wonderful, and her favorite story about the senior exemption was this. One day, she got a phone call from a few residents that lived in Century Village. And they were very concerned. And they were like, Lori, we think we're not gonna have our senior exemption. There's 5 of us, we've had it for so long. You know, it saves us $400 or $500 a year. And she's like, well, let me look at your situation. And they're like, Lori, the problem is last year, you know, we had a little bit of a thing. We all won and we got to split it, $3 million in the lottery. And so, Lori looked at that and she goes, well, let me tell you this. For this year, your income went up a little bit, so you can take, got your significant amount of money, but you can't have it this year, but you'll have it again next year. But with that said, thank you all so much for having me. You all are wonderful.
Mery Lopez, attorney, was a presenter at our April 2024 Sunrise, Florida Rotary Aging Gracefully Seminar. She informed us about the legal challenges we face after retirement. She discusses how Lady Bird deeds can both protect you and avoid probate court, and also the need for title insurance, wills, healthcare directives, and estate planning.
Okay, I did not have Red Bull, coffee, or a lot of sugar. Wow. Can I talk about it? Did he leave the room? Lord, man, that was fast. But I will tell you, I will follow up on some of the things that he talked about. My name is attorney Mery Lopez Palma. I'm a real estate planning attorney. I do everything that's related to real estate. I'm a licensed in the state of Florida. I'm also a licensed realtor and a notary. So I'm able to cover a lot of the questions that you have that have to do with the topics that I'll be covering tonight. Most notably, I want to let you know that I am married to Armando Palma. 18 years now. We have 3 beautiful children, Elizabeth, Antonio, and Andres, as you see up there. But I wanted to add that not only do I have children, but I have 4 cats, 4 goats, 2 rabbits, and at least 30 chickens since the last time I counted. Southwest Ranches, we're neighbors. I love Sunrise, just to let you know. We love this area. This is a beautiful facility. And thank you all for coming out tonight. I really appreciate your attendance. And as you met Olga, my legal assistant at the table, she is there to set you up. Any information that you need, make sure you leave your name and number. But before I get started, I wanted to tell you a story about a very successful, wealthy individual who is celebrating his 100th birthday. He owned many companies. and lots of real estate. He was a very successful individual, and one day a local reporter came to interview him and asked, "Tell us, what is the secret to your great success?" He said, "It all comes down to one word. It is literally, really, only one word that explains all your success in life." The reporter said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes. And the one word," he said, "is willpower. If you have willpower, you have everything." The reporter said, "Do you care to elaborate? That's very inspiring. Willpower?" He said, "Yes. My father died, and in his will, he left me a fortune. So with willpower, you have everything." Hence the reason why we're here today, to talk about wills, estate planning. So on a more serious note, as you can see, this is our organizational structure at the firm. We're a full-service real estate law firm. What does that mean? It basically means that we do probate, estate planning, all types of deeds, power of attorneys. I do the landlord-tenant evictions. Sometimes we have to evict kids from our own homes, and we do it. Title closings, which is really important. Loan documentations, litigation, mediation, and title review, and pre-foreclosure, short sales, and loan modifications, which was a really hot topic a few years ago, but we might be facing that again. So the law firm, let's talk about the real estate segment. Purchase and sale of commercial and residential property is really important. When you do that, you want to have title insurance. And I could talk to you about the benefits of title insurance, it's coming up, but it's really an important factor to when you buy and sell property. I help individuals with leases. Sometimes we have homes with extra rooms. You know the joke about Burger King in Hialeah and La Ciudad de Progreso? It really happens in Hialeah. It was kind of funny that he brought that up, because when I hear stories like that, I've been in Hialeah for 20 years in my practice, and I've seen it all as well. And so we have to protect ourselves, and having the right documentation is really important. Having the right leases, having a real estate attorney on your team is key. So when you get those robocalls and people saying, "Hey, I'm gonna buy your house for cash," you wanna be able to have an attorney that's, as I call the family attorney, that you can reach directly. If you don't have your attorney's cell phone number, then he's not part of the family. One thing you'll notice about me is that on my business card that Olga has over there, guess what I have on it? My cell phone number. So when you guys get a question or you're faced with anything that looks like fraud, and you call Marty's office, but you also want to have a real estate attorney on your team, you can have my cell phone number and reach out to me. I also help people do business asset sales, franchise sales, land sales. Those are all pretty self-explanatory, but there are lots of different things that you can do in your life. Young, old, and older, all kinds of business transactions. And you always want to have a real estate attorney at the beginning. Don't call me after the problem happened. It's going to cost you 3 times the amount. You'd be surprised how many calls I get after you're already in the pickle, in the jar, you're done. I'm like, wow, now we have to litigate. So something that would have cost you a couple $100s for me to review and help you with is now going to cost you thousands of dollars. So I always say, before you do any transaction, for any family member, for any friend, always have an attorney review it. And if not me, make sure you pick one. So landlord-tenant actions, we're gonna go on to the next slide. We do those like I talked about early, evictions. The meat and potatoes is the estate planning. The estate planning is really important, and that's what we talked about earlier, willpower. If you have assets, more than a home, you have an investment property, you have retirement accounts, and you have all kinds of different types of assets. You have an art collection, you have a jewelry collection, whatever it is, this is where the will comes in. The will is an important instrument that allows you to express to your family members, when you're no longer here, what you want to do and how you want it done. The will comes in a package with my firm. And what I do, it's called the estate planning package. So the will is the last will and testament. That's just one document, but that document from beginning to end is going to cover all your desires, and it's also going to nominate or appoint an executor or a personal representative. So when you write a will with me, you have to decide who is going to represent you along with your attorney. Because eventually, right, there's only two things certain in life, I hate to say it, but taxes are one of them, and death is the other. So we can't get away from that, and being prepared really makes a difference for your family members. So having this structure and having a personal representative selected is key. That personal representative doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a friend, it could be a sister, it could be a neighbor that you love, it could be anybody that you entrust. And they're gonna make sure that everything that you wrote in the will is going to occur. And that's the key. Making sure that all your desires are in the will. Now, part of the package is there's multiple documentation. So you have the first document, which is the last, right, testament. Then you have a living will. Does anybody know what a living will is? Have you heard about a living will?
Yeah, for the hospital.
Right, for the hospital, exactly. You don't want the hospital to decide what happens to your mom, your child, your sister. You don't want the hospital to decide whether to resuscitate or not resuscitate, or to pull or not pull. The living will in Florida gives you, the family, the power back. And if you don't have it, guess who decides? The hospital, not your family. So it's really important when I sit down with you to do the estate planning that that living will is one of the documents in your package. And then in that living will, you're gonna select one person. I've had parents that select two. Maybe they put both of their kids, or if they have three and then they all have to vote, and then we write some language in there so that they all decide. Sometimes if you have multiple children, I don't recommend you put all the pressure on one child, because those are tough decisions. So, you know, I talk to you one-on-one about that, but it's important to have that living will. The other document is the health surrogate. Have you heard of the health surrogate? Yes? Okay, I see a couple hands. If you haven't, what that is that the person that you select can help make decisions about medication, nursing facilities, any decisions that you're not able to make at that time. They can step in and have that directive, that health directive, to assist you with those problems, questions. They can also say, hey, why are you mixing these two drugs? You're making my mom a zombie. And I don't want you to give that to her. And that health surrogate, that health document, gives them the power and the strength to put the doctor in his place, because you know, everyone is human. Doctors sometimes make mistakes. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Okay, so you always want someone watching out for you. And that's what the health surrogate does. We do an estate valuation and a strategy. So when we sit down, we're gonna look at your estate valuation, we're gonna look at strategy, we're gonna make sure that you have a homestead exemption on your primary home. That's really important. With the next segue, which is the probate and litigation. Has anybody experienced probate? Anybody heard of probate? Okay, a couple of hands. It's not a fun process, I'm sure you know. There are two types of probate, and that's a whole other seminar, but I'll make it real quick. When you pass, with a will or without a will, and you have an estate, you have to have probate. You can't get away from it. And it's either gonna be a summary, or it's gonna be a formal. A lot of people say, well, why do I have to probate? She had a will. Well, you have to probate the will. It has to go through the court. The judge has to authorize me as your attorney and the heirs to get the percentages and the things that you decided in your will. And if there isn't a will, then it goes by intestacy, right? It goes from husband and wife to children. And if everyone's gone, then it goes back up to mom and dad. And if they're gone, then it goes to brothers and sisters. I always say it's like a cross, right? It goes from the top to the bottom and then back up and sideways. Brothers and sisters are considered the sideways of the cross. And that's how it passes in Florida. Like I said, that's a really complicated process, and maybe another day we could do that seminar. But let's get to the nitty and gritty, adding to what Marty was talking about, deeds. Lady bird deed. How many people have heard about a ladybird deed? What a wonderful instrument the ladybird deed is. For those of you that don't know about it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and why I love this instrument. A ladybird deed is, okay, you've already bought your home. When you buy your home and you get title insurance, it's insuring the warranty deed. And I'm going to talk about title insurance in a little bit. But the warranty deed is just a warranty deed. It's going to give it to you and your spouse if you're married, or just you. The ladybird deed is almost like me building a mini will within the deed. You still have control of your property, and I'll give you an example. So mom and dad are the owners of the property, but mom and dad will have a life estate within the property, which means they cannot be removed from the deed until they go to heaven. The time that mom and dad pass, the language in the ladybird deed goes to what's called the remainder men. Your remainder men can be your children. It could be whoever you want. It could be a nonprofit, it could be a charity, whoever you want to leave that property to. So guess what I just did for my client? I avoided probate. And I just saved you $8,000 if it's a summary. If it's a formal, you're going to spend $25,000 to $30,000 in a formal probate. So if you have more assets than one home and $75,000, you fall into the formal. And formal probate is very expensive, especially if I have kids that fight. Now, can you ladybird multiple properties? Absolutely. And that's why I love this instrument, because I have a lot of seniors that I work with and a lot of kids that want to get their homes before they've even gone. And they'll come to my office and say, hey, my mom and dad want me to have the house. Go ahead and quitclaim deed it to me. Oh no, I won't do it. I will ladybird it, because what happens is that mom and dad will have full power of that house until they pass. Okay? And a quitclaim deed, the second you quitclaim deed it, you just lost all your power and your property gets reassessed and you pay more taxes. And the ladybird deed, you do not. And if your kids turn bad, right? The ladybird deed doesn't get changed of ownership until mom and dad pass. The second you record the death certificates and the county knows mom and dad are not there, then you get reassessed. But you're avoiding probate. And you're avoiding the instant quitclaim deed taxes. So what's nice about this, and going back to the bad child, if the bad child becomes a bad child, or let's say they're a great child and they win the lottery, and you have two kids, one has the lottery and one doesn't, you can change it all up, because the ladybird deed gives you the power to do whatever you want while you're alive. You have the power to sell it, mortgage it, do anything that you want with it. Right. They are just remainder men, and they don't get the power until both of you have passed. Okay, so I just want to be really clear on that. And the quitclaim deed, you don't have the taxes. Like, a lot of people say, hey, quitclaim deed, get us out so my kids don't have to probate. No, ladybird deed is the way to go. So if you don't have your properties under ladybird deed, I highly recommend doing that. It's great estate planning, especially if you just have one or two properties. Okay, guys? So that's pretty much it. I know I'm close to my time. I'm going to cover one other thing. In the ladybird deed, there are 3 types of tenancies that you want to consider. One is tenants in common, and one is joint tenants with right of survivorship. Parents are always asking me, well, if I leave it to my kids, what do I do? Do I do with right of survivorship? So if you have Sue and Charles are the kids, Sue dies, then Charles gets it all with the right of survivorship. Or you do a tenancy in common, so if Sue has children and they're your grandchildren, her share will pass to your grandchildren. It's a complicated instrument, and that's why you want a real estate attorney doing it 100% the way that you really want to do it, and maintain the control. Because with the ladybird deed, you have control the whole time you're alive and breathing. With the life estate, you don't. Okay? I mean, you do and you don't. It's a little bit more technical, but as far as I'm concerned, the ladybird deed is your best way. And I can have a consultation with you and explain that in more detail, okay? So, the last part I'm going to talk about real quick, because I see a lot of questions and I'm down to my last 5 minutes, is title closings. Why is title insurance so important? I mean, you heard about the fraud. You don't want to do quick claim deeds. You know, you have a cash property and someone offers you cash and you just say, oh, I'll just quick claim deed it to them and they'll give me cash under the table. Well, I mean, title insurance is going to insure both the buyer and the seller to make sure everything is done right. Title insurance protects you from the moment you close and throughout your ownership. If anything ever comes back up to bite you, the title insurance is there to cover you. I underwrite with Attorney's Title. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I've been doing title insurance policies for about 18 years. So I highly recommend it. I've seen all kinds of crazy things on title. Sometimes things are missed. People come back to life. They were supposedly dead. Then they say, oh, I still own the property. And that's why title insurance is so important. And do we have time for 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, give a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Armando's part of the law firm.
I've seen this a lot. I have a lot of clients that come back and reach back out to me. There's people that actually pay a service to see when there are any changes of title, and they send a document to your house that mimics an official county or state document, and they basically say, we'll get you a certified copy of your deed, and then they charge you like $75. And sometimes you get those letters are very specific, and they'll have the names of the people on title.
Oh, it doesn't mask it. It doesn't mask their names. Their names are public record. Anybody can pull it up, like he said, along with the fraud. So they're always looking. But the names are there. They're not in secret. The only thing that's a secret is probate, and your wills do not become public information. They're filed with the court, and unless you're a probate attorney, you cannot access those documents. Otherwise, we would know, you know, Michael Jackson's worth and what he gave to everybody. Those documents are confidential. Wills are, but not deeds. Deeds are all public information.
And if you take it out and put it in your children's name, you lose your homestead. Okay, and a lot of seniors they do go ahead and try to do it themselves, and then big boo-boos happen. I don't know why my taxes have tripled or quadrupled because they decided they wanted to put it in their children's name to save them the headache, but guess what? They still live there, and they lost their homestead because it's no longer in their name.
Because they listen to their children. I think I had one more question and we'll wrap it up. Go ahead. All right, so nice to talk to all of you. Remember, right over there. Thank you.